다운.
Welcome, Chris Langley here with Eye on Inyo Education. Our special guest who keeps coming back because he has so much news is Barry Simpson. He is the superintendent, the county superintendent, and he's got lots of things. And then finally we have fentanyl and Narcan. And I hate to end on that note, but it's important.
Yeah, it's I'm sure our community has been seeing on the news that the rise in the fentanyl and the concerns about that, and I want to assure everyone we have not seen any fentanyl in our schools or anything like that. But that being said, we don't want to be naive about those things as well, and so we have met with the Department of Health here in Inyo County, who are going out to the schools and providing training with the anti-opioid drug called Narcan, and it's just a nose spray. And so those the Narcan will be on our campuses, and our staffs will all be trained to be able to use that in the event of any emergency. So really, I just want our community to know that we are prepared in the event that something like this has occurred. We don't expect that. We have not seen anything like that, but we know that it's a possibility for any school community, and so we want to make sure that we're prepared. And so we've done that as well.
So Narcan is used if the student is having an emergency?
Yeah, an emergency and exhibiting signs of an opioid overdose. It's an amazing drug that seems to just immediately counteract those things and saves many people's lives. And unfortunately, we do have an opioid epidemic in our community, and so not in our community. I mean, in the country, and so it's good that we have this tool, and so we want to make sure that our schools have it as well.
Yeah, it's good to be proactive.
Exactly.
With these kinds of things.
If you want to do student safety. And then along with what we talked about with some of the training that we're doing and with the public health, I'd also like to mention some of the other student safety items that the county office, that you, the school board, or the county school board, and I have been funding. And when I became the county superintendent of schools, one of the areas I really wanted to focus on was student safety and school safety. And one of the things that we found in each of our districts was there really wasn't a very good intercom paging system in each of our classrooms across the various schools and school districts. So with the County Board of Education support, we have spent roughly $1 million outfitting every classroom in this county with a very good paging and speaker system, including outside and outbuildings, gyms and things of that nature, that can serve as an alert system should there be an emergency on campus. And now we have that in place, which we're very proud to say that that's available to all of our classrooms across the county. In addition, we have added well over 100 state-of-the-art video cameras on each of the school sites. These video cameras have really high capabilities, and in the future we can lay additional school safety items on those where they can recognize events and alert the school offices quickly. So we really feel good about the progress that we've made in this area. And I just want to say thank you to the Inyo County Office of Education, School Board, the Board of Trustees for making such a significant investment in this. I really felt like it was needed, having served as a superintendent. We'd often hear from our staff that, oh, we didn't hear that announcement, we didn't know what was going on. And now that's simply not the case. We have eliminated that, and I'm very proud to say that that's in place at this point.
Well, the whole word, phrase student safety has taken on a whole new
Exactly. North
sound.
Star.
Yeah.
North Star plays a big role in that. Mental health, talking with students, making sure that they're doing okay, that students are talking with each other and sharing, hey, you know, my friend maybe not, you know, doing as well as they should be. So we're attacking it with our school counselors. We're trying to put the technology in place that keeps our students safe. We want to make sure if there ever is an event that we can lock down our schools quickly and safely. And so you're right, student safety, it's a number of things. And so I feel very good about the progress we've made in this area, so I'm proud of that.
Well, having been been involved in a mass shooting at the University of Texas, I have a great sensitivity to it.
Yeah.
And we have lots of work to do to keep up with how things are changing.
We
So
do. We do.
I'm really glad we're doing that.
Yeah, and so I feel I'm very grateful to you and the school board members for allowing me to push forward on this. It's been it's an expensive thing that needed to happen, and the truth is there really is no funding. You know, there's no school safety funding dollars that really come down. So it's you know, our school districts either have to put away money and save up to do some of these projects. So it's really nice that we were able to make this happen for them. So that they can focus on the more important things of educating our children and providing
that.
All right, Jason Brown here. I'm with Stacy Powles. We are on week 3. We talked the first week, if you didn't get a chance, about her book, Empty Cupboards. Last week we talked about Exhausted Parent Network and what it was and what it is going to be in the future. And today we're just going to get to know a little bit more about what Stacy did for her career. We know that you were radio with KMMT, KRHB. We know that it was at the Mammoth Times,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And then you did some work for Henson.
Right. So
Jim Henson.
I started working in the music business at Paramount Pictures in 1984.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I would relicense music cue sheets and music licenses for Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Mark and Mindy, Mannix, I think. And then I moved over to Entertainment Tonight and whatever they needed help on. And then I took some time off and had 2 kids, and then they called me back to be the music licensing coordinator for the Arsenio Hall show, the first Arsenio Hall show.
Oh, wow.
And that was full of music. And then something happened with Paramount. I moved up to Mammoth, and then in 1992 I was able to be the first telecommuter from Paramount Pictures.
Oh, wow.
And they let me do my music licensing job, phone, fax, and computer. So I set up an office at my house and
Fax.
was able to, I know, fax. Before email, I was phone, fax, computer.
Right.
And was able to do my job up here. And then through a bunch of circumstances, I had, well, divorce being the number one, I had to move back to Los Angeles. And then Paramount insisted I come back to work in the office in Hollywood every day. And it was just, it didn't work out. So after almost 18 years, I got let go of my job at Paramount. But then I started freelancing, music licensing and music clearance and music cue sheets. And one of my clients is the Jim Henson Company.
Okay.
I found them, or they found me through some composers that write music for some of their TV shows. There is a show on PBS called Dinosaur Train, which is going to be in its 6th season now. And there's also a little kids show on Netflix called it's about words.
Okay.
It's about little kids who are actually animals who are in diapers, and they learn about words and what things mean, and they learn about sharing and things like that. So I do the music licensing and the cue sheets. And music licensing means that if a television show or a film wants to use any kind of music,
Right.
or a book, if a book wants to reprint lyrics, you have to get permission from the copyright holders to use that song, unless it's in the public domain. And so music clearance people like me, we are in between the production company
Okay.
and the copyright owners, which are usually the record companies and the music publishers. So if you want to license a master recording, let's say of a Rolling Stone song,
Right.
then you have to go to whatever record company owns the master, but you also have to go to the publishing company, which actually owns the song. So
Okay.
the record company owns the sound, the publishing company owns the song. So I've done that for many, many years. And then when the production company uses all this music in their productions, I have to do a music cue sheet. And a music cue sheet is a legal document that you send to the Performing Rights Society, which is ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, all those things.
Right.
And it lists the music in the order it appears in the production. So you have to have really good ears to do music cue sheets. And even if there's somebody that was hired to just write the score, that still has to be listed under the title, who wrote it, how it was used, was it a visual vocal, was it a background vocal, was it just underscore, and how long it was used, like 30 seconds or 1 minute,
Wow.
and is it ASCAP or BMI or CSAC. And then you send those music cue sheets into the performance rights societies, and that's how the writers and the publishers get paid.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And the publishers also have to be listed on the music cue sheet. Those are the copyright holders of the song. And so I've been doing that since 19, and since the mid 80s.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, right now I don't do a whole lot of music licensing because of all the downloading and the streaming, and all the technology makes it really difficult for my brain to remember all that. So I mostly do music cue sheets. And when Jim Henson Company has a new show coming up, they will call me up and say, hey, can you do the cue sheets for this? And I say yes, and this is how much you're going to pay me. A few other production companies do that. Right now, one of my biggest clients is Multicom Entertainment. They're a film distribution company, and they have purchased all the really old television shows from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, that some are really, really bad, but I've been revising and doing the music cue sheets for those because they need to be done. And
Because they still pay out.
oh, they still pay out because these shows are playing in foreign territories. People in Turkey love certain television shows that were done in the 70s. I mean, go figure. And so they're still playing on television in foreign territories. And they needed new music cue sheets because I have to put the logo of Multicom Entertainment at the top of the show and at the bottom of the show. So I'm redoing all these music cue sheets. And I'm grateful for the work because it has to support my writing career.
Yeah. It's crazy though to think that, you take an old show like that and there's still a lot of work that has to be done to get it back on the air.
Yeah, and people think that just because they hear something on the radio that they can just use it in one of their projects. No. If anything is recognizable, you have to license it.
Yeah, we pay, I think, 3 different licensing groups for the stuff that we do for
So you pay
our
BMI?
broadcast. No, actually, because of the way our stuff works, we have, for broadcast, you can use Motion Array. For stuff that we do, like for our YouTube, we can use Epidemic Sound, and then we have Envato. I mean, we have different groups that we can use for different types of environments that we cover. But Motion Array mostly for broadcasting. You can do a lot of broadcasting stuff with them.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, and then there's another company out of Santa Monica that will license music for us and do what you're talking about, the cue sheets. But
Right.
we haven't filmed our movie yet, so we're not that far along that we have to worry about it, but it's coming.
Well, then, if you know that there are certain music you want to use in your movie, I highly suggest that you contact the copyright owners as far in advance as possible. Because depending if let's say, for example, you want an Elvis Presley song on there that he co-wrote or that he has the rights to, it might take the Presley estate a year to get back to you, and they may say no.
Yeah.
And so if they say no, what's your plan B going to be?
Well, our plan B is we know a bunch of musicians and they're going to score the movie.
Okay, that's perfect.
It'll all be original.
Make sure you
for the
have
most
that
part.
contract, that work for hire contract.
Yeah,
because
no. We keep all our ducks in a row when it comes to that stuff. So.
yeah, it's very.
It's a lot of headaches.
It is a lot. It is a lot of headaches. And with Empty Cupboards, I wanted, in the beginning of the book, I quote the Jim Steinman song, Total Eclipse of the Heart. And I knew that I was going to have to try to get rights for that. And so I found out who controlled Total Eclipse of the Heart. And there's 2 companies where you go to get reprint rights. So I went to the right one, and I explained to them what the book was about. They also require certain elements in order to be able to license something. So they wanted to know what the book was about. They wanted to know how many pages. They wanted to know how many books I'm going to sell. I don't know. They wanted to know why I wanted to use Total Eclipse of the Heart. I had to say, well, it's because of Mental Breakdown. And there's those lyrics in there, which I'm not going to say on the air right now, just in case you get try to want you to, So listen to Total Eclipse of the Heart, and you'll know. And so they gave me an approval, and I had to pay $300 to have it in the beginning of the book there. But I knew I had to do it right.
Yeah.
And there's so many people who put lyrics in their books that, and I look in the credits, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they didn't give credit. I wonder if they even knew that they had to go and get approval to use the lyrics in the book, and so they have to do that. I also do grand rights reprints for theater. So I work with a theater group out of New York, and they often will call me and say, hey, we want to do, let's say, a jukebox musical based on the songs of Aerosmith. And we already wrote the play, and I'm like, did you get a hold of the copyright owner of the Aerosmith songs to get approval to do this? Well, no, that's why we're calling you. I said, but you already wrote the play. I'm like, okay.
Oh, plays.
Yeah.
You have one.
I've got a few, but I did write a play called Stirrups.
Yeah.
It's not about horseback riding.
No.
It takes place over 40 years in a gynecology office following this snarky 15-year-old teenager in 1975 whose mother makes her get her first birth control or she cannot have a boyfriend. And it follows her life through menopause, mostly within the walls of this gynecology apartment. It's the same format as if you've seen the play Same Time Next Year, or it was also with a movie with Alan Alda and Ellen Burstyn, where every year or every couple of years they meet in the same place.
Right.
So it was a 2016 New York Theater Festival selection. It's
Awesome.
been played or produced in a couple of theaters around the country, and right now we are forming the Stirrups Foundation, especially because what's happening with women's health around this country. So the Stirrups Foundation will marry the play Stirrups with local women's health clinics, and to shed light on what's happening with local women's health clinics in various communities around the country.
Wow.
And they'll use Stirrups as a vehicle to get people into the studio or into the theater, and then they'll have some sort of presentation with their local women's health clinic. So we've got that going right now too. So I'm waiting for the 501c3 thing to come through so we can do that. And I'm handing that over to one of my stepdaughters because I have to delegate. I've got way too much going on right now. So,
or you'll be writing a whole new book, Empty Cupboards Part 2.
I'm actually, it's already.
Oh, is it already happening?
People have been asking, when are you going to do another story personal essays? And I said, I'm working on one thing at a time. Actually, I'm not working on just one thing at a time. But with Stirrups, there was a couple references to songs in there. The references to the song Santa Claus is Coming to Town in there, but I didn't write the lyrics because I knew I would have to get reprint rights. So one of the characters starts to sing it and another character says, stop. I don't need to hear the song because I know the song. So in anything that we write that has to have music in it, for example, I am very inspired by the Eagles album, The Long Run.
Yeah.
And I want to write a movie by that. And so I'm going to have to get the licenses from Glenn Fry's estate and from Don Henley and see if I can do that before I even start writing the script.
Right.
Yeah.
So good wisdom there.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
All right. Well, I've been Jason Brown. I guess I always will be Jason Brown. This is Stacy Powles, and
this lifetime.
Thank you for coming in and sharing all these wonderful stories.
Absolutely.
Hi, Chris Langley here with an ongoing series we call Eye on Inyo, and today we're going to have our eye on the Alabama Hills. I've been, just so everyone knows, I've been involved with the Alabama Hills for 12 years now, and we had a group that pursued a National Scenic Area. So if I call it the NSA, it means National Scenic Area. And we finally got it signed by President Trump after a lot of politicking. And then we worked on a management plan. And to let us know how things are going, I have Sheri Lucious here. There, I said it right. To talk about, she's project manager with our BLM here in the Owens Valley. So good morning.
Good morning, Chris.
So
Thank you.
why don't you talk a little bit about well, maybe the whole process of
Sure.
how we ended up where we are today.
With the management plan?
Well, and just how we got the NSA.
Sure, the scenic area was really a grassroots effort from the local community to turn it into a national scenic area. A number of different designations were considered, and scenic area was what was landed on. And then back in 2019, like you said, it was a long process. You were able to get that signed in the Dingle Act. And the Dingle Act told us we needed to write a management plan. And so we did write a management plan with lots and lots of public input. And that was signed in 2021. And the management plan, I think a lot of people think maybe it's only about recreation, but it's a comprehensive management plan. So it includes actions for fire prevention and to protect wildlife habitat and to make sure there's great recreation out there that is not impacting those other resources in the scenic area that much.
It's complicated. I mean, I'm amazed at I don't know how many pages it finally ended up, but I have a draft version and it's long and everything connects to everything else. So it's been really interesting to see it happen. So how are things going? You're basically in charge of implementing the management plan.
Yes.
You forgot to say no, huh?
That's a good idea, but I did forget to say no. I was excited actually to implement it because I also have been involved in this for a long time, so it's fun to see something become a scenic area and then get the management plan and then go see the changes on the ground. It's been very satisfying.
Because it's such a fabulous area. For those of you that don't know the Alabama Hills, they are this collection of really marvelous granite rocks that have been carved into all kinds of shapes that are really interesting. And of course, photographers and movie people and tourists love to photograph them. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, and what's going on in the management plan that we're really focusing on right now is changes to the camping. So we're really trying to focus on improving the experience for campers and for other people by reducing the amount of camping so that you're more spread out, feels more dispersed, and also so that there's less user conflict. If I'm seeing a film site, if I'm going to see where Tremors was filmed, there's not somebody camping in that site and there's not a lot of fire rings and trash. If I'm going rock climbing, there's not a campsite right there in my camp where I'm going rock climbing.
Yeah, and that's really improves the whole experience of being in the Alabama Hills, certainly, and certainly makes it more attractive to photographers and movie people as well. So
yes.
That's great. We will be back with Sheri in a moment or so. And this is Chris Langley with Eye on Inyo. Hi, Chris Langley with Eye on Inyo, our ongoing series about where we live. And we have Sheri Lucious here from the BLM. She's project manager, and we were talking about the Alabama Hills. What are some of the successes that you've seen with the passing of the management plan up in the hills?
Sure. It's been, again, like we talked last time, it's so exciting to see the changes on the ground. So we've begun putting in the new signs and closing certain areas to camping and designating other areas to camping. And to me, that's been really the biggest success. The west side of Movie Road now, you can no longer disperse camp at. And what's been wonderful about that, as we talked last time, is it's really opened that area up so that people don't have that conflict with other users, and that the views up to the Sierra are really unmarred by anything. And I think it looks really professional. The new signs are all part of our National Conservation Land System, so I think they look great. We're seeing less human waste, less trash, and really most people trying to do the right thing and following the rules. So it seems like it's going great. And in order to do that, to close those campsites, we actually have removed over 135 fire rings already. And we're not even quite done.
They have a way of coming back.
They
so
do.
It's a constant.
They do come back, yes. And several tons of ash associated with those have been removed as well. So that to me is a huge success. It can reduce the fire risk and also just make it a nicer place, whether you're camping or not camping, to not see that.
What are some of the challenges that you see that need to be addressed that haven't been yet?
Sure. We're still working on the final implementation of that management plan, or the camping part of the management plan. And we're going to move into the east side of Movie Road now. And I think that's going to be really challenging to make sure the visitors know where they can and can't camp. We're working really hard on the communications and the signs.
How are you going to do that? I've been wondering how this is a campsite,
Right.
this is not. I mean, how do you communicate that?
So I think we're trying to communicate that in a whole bunch of ways. Everything from engineering, so you make sure there are rocks placed where you don't want people to go. There are signs where you want them to go. And then also there's the engineering, and then there's the education piece. So then we go out and we talk to people. We have things on our websites. There'll be new signs this fall with maps of the campsites. And then at the final thing, of course, is enforcement. So it's engineering, education, and enforcement. And so if we will go out and make sure people are in the right place. We do patrols and make sure that it's going well. And we're really trying to be kind about this, right? People are learning the changes, so we're really just trying to focus on the education pretty heavy and tell them where they should go.
Well, you said to me that humans were not complaining as much as we all thought they would.
Yeah.
And that's reassuring. Guess I can love my fellow person again after that. We will come back with you in another time.
Great.
And this is Chris Langley with Eye on Inyo.
Hello, I'm Fred Rowe from Sierra Bright Dot Fly Fishing Guide Service. I've been teaching, guiding, writing, and lecturing on fly fishing since 1982. Well, let's get to this week's fly fishing report. Well, it's a new year, and it looks to me like things are working out great. We're starting to see weather up here. And when I say weather, I mean we're getting snow. Not so much here in the Owens Valley, but really up in the mountains, where those of us that live in the Owens Valley appreciate it in the mountains. Okay, over on the upper Owens River, lots of fresh snow. Access into there is going to be the issue. Snowmobiles is really the way to get in there, but if you're not going to do that, you need to walk in, ski in, or snowshoe in. That's how you're going to have to get in there. I wish I had a snowmobile to drive in there. All right, fishing's starting to pick up a little bit. We're getting a few more fish, a couple big trophy fish a year. The problem with the trophy trout, in my mind, you got to walk or a snowmobile in. The walk is about an hour in to where the fishing is really good. All right, what we're fishing in there are stoner nymphs and the green gold prince nymph. A lot of guys use eggs and worms in there. I found that using these other flies work much better down deep in the deeper holes, runs, and pools where the fish are resting and feeding. All right, let's go over to Hot Creek. Same thing over there. With all this fresh snow, it's a walk in to either the interpretive side or into the canyon. The advantage of the canyon right now, a lot of tourists are walking in there to check out the geological site, and so they're making a trail in that you can walk in pretty easy. Give it another week and that trail will be great. All right, fly fishers that are willing to take the effort to walk in and fish the canyon, they're gonna find very little fishing pressure and fairly good fishing. Weed beds at their lowest point during the year, which means there's lots of open water to fish, and in particular means nymphing in there is really good. Midges and blue wing olive nymphs are what we're using in there. All right, down the hill, Lower Owens continues to be the best place to fish. We're still nymphing primarily, a little bit of surface activity. For the guys that are real active, hardcore dry fly guys, you can find a few fish to catch on the surface, but for the most part, it's nymphing in there. And I'm using midges and blue wing olive nymph patterns, like goldagons and hunt spot pheasant tail. Okay, over at Bishop Creek Canal, it's fishing tough. Water's super low, fish are really spooky. Drying a dropper is the best way to fish there. Even that, you casting 40, 50 feet upstream, fish are just really spooky. So it's just super tough. Fishing right now, you need it to come up just a little bit and then fishing will be good.